You've seen the photos, you've seen the videos, you've heard the rumours on how HSV made the fastest ute in the world, the VZ Maloo. You may or may not already know this, but in today's video I'm going to explain to you how HSV got the title of the fastest ute in the world with the VZ Maloo from a former employee of HSV who actually worked on the production of the VZ Maloo. I'll explain its testing, performance, its features pre-production. My name's Matt and you're watching Curtis LSA TV. The VZ Maloo started in the early 2000s, so that was before your smartphones ever existed. We were still using dial-up internet, and YouTube hadn't even started by then. I think it was a press drive day where we drove from Alice Springs to Darwin for the supercar races with the auto journalists. It was published as Northern Exposure in the HSV magazine. One of the managers suggested I drive the Maloo at speed to see what I thought, and she warned me to be cautious around 240 kilometers an hour. Now before the naysayers, the do-gooders and fun police say anything,
we're surrounded by naysayers, do-gooders, power trippers, the fun police.
That was when Northern Territory had open speed limits on their highways. If you don't believe me, go check it out yourself. Sure enough, at 245 kilometers an hour, she was all over the road. The Holden Utes didn't have multi-link rear suspension fitted, so had toe change bump steer over its suspension travel. I suspect the wind dynamics was creating body roll and then subsequent rear wheel steer issues. I don't think there were ever any customer complaints made on the issue, so it's simply something that was low priority. In addition, the 245/35 19-inch Pirelli tyres had clearance issues with the Maloo rear inner guard due to this toe change as well. So subsequently, 19-inch wheels were never officially released as an option on Maloo prior to the VZ platform. I don't think it stopped dealers fitting them, no, but officially it was never released from the engineering department. During the development of the VZ platform, the LS2 engine required a new Gen 4 ECU, which required a subsequent change to the Bosch ABS module, 8.3 I think it was, so they would talk to each other. The Bosch 8.3 module then also required a separate left-hand and right-hand brake lines to enable stability control. I pushed hard and we were going to get the stability control as well as a new better traction control across the whole VZW platform, but unfortunately marketing decided to drop the stability control and save that for the VE Commodore release later. I tested all the performance, brake, tyre and suspension options we had fitted on a developed Holden Calais fitted with the HSV V6 engine that had the Gen 4 ECU. Same upgrades to the ABS control module and has a release calibration of the stability control program. I tried everything I could, but I was never able to lose control of the car. It just went where I steered it. The better the brakes and better the tyre grip suspension, the more reactive the stability control was. The big problem for Maloo, so I'm just continually reading here from Mark, so the big problem for Maloo was a carry-over Holden Ute higher load rated rear cross member. I wasn't going to get the necessary mounted brackets for the extra brake lines that the sedan rear cross member had added to it. It was going to result in no LS2 for Maloo and potential carryover of the VY2 260 kilowatt Gen 3 engine LS1 and Bosch 5. ABS and crappy on and off traction control. A pretty unacceptable situation in my book, according to Mark. So as we well know, the VZ Maloo came out with the LS2 6-litre V8, 290 kilowatts and 530 newton meters of torque. Production was from 2004 to 2006. In total numbers built was 517 base models, 950 R8 models. My 06 with 181 base models and 339 R8 models. So the Ventura four-wheel drive wagon was released or about to be around the time they were working on the VZ. My old boss at Holden was doing the chassis work on it, so I was up to speed with the changes being made. The four-wheel drive wagon rear cross member was going to have the required brackets fitted as it was getting the HSV V6 fitted, and it was a beefed up rigid foam filled version of the standard sedan version, so it would pass durability testing on a 500 kilo load carrying capacity. I can't recall what the standard sedan cross member had, but it was less. So it did some basic calculations and I wrote an engineering report, and this is actually true from what Mark says. I detailed a potential load scenario of 2 blokes, 2 dirt bikes, riding gear, fuel and a dog, a blue heeler of course being Aussie, and it came to just under 500 kilos rear axle load. along with the necessary changes that needed to be made. And with this, the LS2 VZ was born. All we needed was a unique rear fuel line and brake line harnesses to be made, and some unique stone and damage protection shields to be custom made. The late John Oliver helped me with this development, sourcing and testing of the parts. One of the nicest people I've ever had pleasure of working with, and passed away way too young. The pilot vehicle was now built up, and I can recall Phil Harding, engineering director, throwing the keys at me and sending me off to the proving ground to do my stuff. Resulting test report was a big thumbs up. With well and truly acceptable handling, Maloo was now a true two-door sports car with outright test speeds of 273 kilometers an hour in a rear wing R8 configuration and 276 kilometers an hour with a hard top and no wing fitted. I used highly accurate V-Box GPS data logging systems, so these are known accurate speeds and no speedo calibration guesses. Mark also advised that he probably has the data plot from the run kicking around somewhere. I suggested on the test run report that marketing release the hard top with no wing as an option so we could claim the higher speed. 19-inch wheels were also passed all the necessary clearance, so were released as an option. The Fastest Ute title hadn't even been thought of at the time. It was purely an exercise to ensure Maloo had the LS2 engine, as well as being able to upgrade the rear cross member multi-link rear suspension for handling and stability features. The 19-inch wheel clearance was a bonus for marketing reasons. After a while, marketing looked up the possibility of Guinness World Records for the world's fastest production ute. I was pretty excited that I would get some recognition for my efforts. I can't explain the disappointment when I found out it wasn't going to be me and it would be given to someone who had absolutely zero involvement in the development process. Between the disappointment of the HRT 427 program failing and a similar event with the development of the track pack, I had had enough and resigned before the official speed run was organised, Mark said. The program manager organising the run record rang me the night before the run. He told me they had set up all test equipment and they did a run to check all system, and he had achieved 270 or 271 kilometers an hour speed that would be approved as an official run if the wind picked up overnight, and the official run the next day wasn't as fast. I'm not religious, Mark said, but I've never prayed so hard for a storm to cross Woomera that night. I'm still bitter and disappointed and twisted about it today. The previous record of the fastest ever pickup truck was done by a Dodge Ram at 248.784 kilometers an hour, or 154.587 miles per hour. On the 25th of May 2006, a standard 2006 HSV Maloo R8 was driven by a former V8 Supercars legend and ambassador to Holden, Mark Scaife, was clocked at an average speed of 271.44 kilometers an hour in Woomera, South Australia. So that was today's video on how the HSV VZ Maloo got its title of Fastest Ute in the World. If you've got any questions for Mark, be sure to leave them in the comments below. I'm sure when he sees them, he'll drop in and respond to them to the best of his ability. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, liking and sharing. If you're a regular viewer to the channel, please consider liking and sharing. And as always, my name's Matt and you've been watching Curtis LSA TV.